Um, Thanks for inviting me here today. It's a great pleasure. I'm really excited to be here. And I'm going to tell you today about artificial intelligence. So let's start with some audience participation. Who here has heard of artificial intelligence and deep learning? OK, that's good, because according to Forbes in 2015, deep learning and machine intelligence will eat the world, all right? And I have a confession, actually. So I work for IBM, but I'm a recovering academic. So I was a professor for 10 years at Harvard. IBM is really my first job. My mom's very proud of me that I finally got out of school. And I studied artificial intelligence for many years, and I would say some of the things we've been able to achieve just in the last 5 to 10 years, I wasn't sure we were going to achieve these in my career, in my lifetime. So here's an example. Here's a picture where an AI system can take in a photograph and produce a beautiful natural language caption, like a man in a black shirt is playing guitar on the left, or a construction worker in an orange safety vest is working on a road. This is really, it's easy sometimes to forget how much progress we've made. And we're getting used to the idea that AI can help us churn through large amounts of data to make better decisions. We're also getting to the point now where there aren't any games left that humans are better than machines at. So everything from Jeopardy, which my company did back around 2010, to Go, which the ancient game that DeepMind recently beat the world champion in, to poker. A group at Carnegie Mellon recently demonstrated a world champion poker player, to video games now. And the interesting thing is that now that we're starting to see AI come into this new AI spring to start to blossom, we're starting to see other kinds of applications of AI start to emerge, including creative ones, places where we might not have thought AI could go. So here's an example of what's called style transfer, where you can take your own photograph, and then you can re-render it in the style of any famous artist you like. So you can take the painting, and it'll re-render your photograph in that style of art. And something else has been happening recently. Just in the last few years, there's been an emergence of something called generative adversarial networks, or GANs. So these pictures that you see on the screen are interesting because they're not real. This isn't a real dog. That's not a real bubble. These are the figments of an AI's imagination, just dreamed up, whole cloth from nothing. So we now have AI systems that can not just take in data and make decisions, but can actually generate things, and generate some pretty amazing things. Now, I have another confession to make as somebody working in the AI field, which is, even though we made these things, we actually don't know how they work. This is slightly terrifying. I mean, we know what we put together, but it's actually an open question. We don't really understand how and why they work. So we started a project. The lab I run is joint between MIT and IBM. So we have a project with Antonio Torralba, who's a professor at MIT, together with his very talented student, David Bao, and then our own Hendrik Stroobelt at IBM. And we set out to ask, well, how do GANs actually work? Again, I'm going to warn you, I'm a former professor, so I'm going to not let you leave here without understanding how neural networks work. So there'll be a quiz at the end. You can collect your diploma on the way out. But basically, neural networks are an interesting thing. This is what's driving the latest AI revolution. And they're a bit of a wolf in sheep in wolf's clothing, right? So they're actually quite simple. It's just a series of operations, additions, and multiplications, a few simple nonlinear functions, nothing too fancy. But the critical thing is it's all learned from data. And when you learn from the data, it's able to do some remarkable things. So this is a picture of what a GAN is. So it just takes in a random set of numbers, and it can generate, for instance, a living room. So that's a living room that doesn't exist in the real world. And what the team in this project set out to do was to ask, well, what does the GAN actually know? And they went and set about building methods to kind of reach inside, as if they were a virtual neuroscientist, going into the brain of the AI and say, well, maybe this individual neuron in the neural network knows something about windows. Or maybe this one knows about people, or this one knows about chairs. And then they had an interesting brainstorm, which was, well, if that's true, then not only can we go and find that out, but what if we could then go in and alter them and change them so that they were either on or off when they weren't naturally that way? And what they did is they actually went down this road, which led somewhere really interesting. So if you have a picture, again, this is a room that doesn't exist in the real world. This is just the figment of an AI's imagination. But what would happen if we took all the units that represent windows, that know about how to make a window, and if we just turned them off? What would that look like? And voila, we can just turn off the windows in the room. And you can even see some of the windows in the room have been replaced by paintings. Or we can turn some of these things on. So we can go and ask if we have a kitchen, and there's, maybe we want to put a window right there. What if we turned on the units in the network that know how to make windows? And we can do that, and then the network will dream up a window for us. And interestingly, it won't only dream up the window, but it'll actually put the appropriate reflection on the granite countertop. So when they saw this, they realized that this is really an exciting and different way of doing something creative. And again, this gets to this theme that's emerging of maybe AIs are not just about analyzing and making decisions, but maybe they can actually unleash a creative process. So they created a tool called GANpaint. There's a URL at the bottom. You can try this out yourself. And basically what it lets you do is to paint. It's a painting tool, but instead of painting with pixels, you paint with neurons. You paint with concepts. So if we want to put a tree in, we can just paint where we want a tree, and then the AI will take care of the rest, and it'll render a tree there. Maybe we don't like that there's that concrete there. We'll just get rid of that in the car. We'll put some grass in there. We can even say, hey, maybe these doors need to be bigger. Let's paint some bigger doors. And interestingly, it'll render the doors in the appropriate orientation relative to the wall. And this is a completely new way where we're not just painting with pixels anymore. We're painting with ideas. And an interesting additional note about these things is it's a bit of a willful tool insofar as if you try and paint a door in the sky, it'll say, doors don't go in skies, and it won't let you do it. So this is a completely new way of making art. And of course, IBM, we don't necessarily build tools for making art, but what we do is serve the enterprises of the world, the people in companies doing all kinds of different jobs. And I would argue, actually, that creativity is the centerpiece of almost everything we do in almost every job. This is just some examples of some of the work we're doing now with AI. Everything from designing new recipes for food, where you can suggest to somebody making recipes new flavor combinations they might not have thought of, or making new fragrances. There's actually, in Brazil, some fragrances that are going to come out that were partially designed with an AI co-pilot. And even something as concrete as concrete. It seems simple, it seems basic, but concrete requires design, requires creativity. How do we make the concrete strong but sustainable? How do we make it have the right physical properties that we need, but also make it cheap? And these are processes increasingly that we can take AI and use them to build better things. But even if you're not in an industry where you design things, I would argue that creativity is central to everything you do in your job. And one of the things we do more than anything in our daily lives, at least in my daily life, is to argue with people. And specifically to convince people that your idea is right or that we should take a particular course, and we debate things. And we're going to have an epic debate tomorrow. This is part of who we are. This is a fundamentally human creative process. And what we did, particularly in our IBM Research Haifa lab in Israel, was to say, could we have an AI that has that ability to generate arguments, to argue a point, to counter-argue against other points? And thus was born Project Debater. And what this is a system that brings together data-driven speech writing and delivery. So again, this is an AI system that's actually going to not just produce a label or something or produce a caption, but it's actually going to produce an argument. It's going to actually generate a valid natural language, English language argument. It's then going to listen to its opponent. So in a debate, you present your point, you listen to your opponent argue the opposite point, and then you listen to it, and then you come up with a rebuttal. And critically then, the system is going to also have to be able to learn something and know something about human dilemmas. What are the fulcrum points along which we make our decisions? So the team built this system, and I'm going to show you a brief clip of a debate where we brought in Harish Natarajan, who's a world champion debater, and Project Debater, this AI system, debated live in front of an audience full of press, and here it is right now.
Greetings, Harish. I have heard you hold the world record in debate competition wins against humans, but I suspect you've never debated a machine. Welcome to the future. For decades, research has demonstrated that high-quality preschool is one of the best investments of public dollars. Regarding poverty, research clearly shows that a good preschool can help kids overcome the disadvantages often associated with poverty. The OECD has recommended that governments subsidize pre-primary education to boost performance in poor areas.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here for this historic event. And it certainly was a pleasure to listen to Project Debater in a competitive environment at the age of 3 or 4, when you're learning that that other child is potentially better than you, when you realize you aren't necessarily as talented as someone else. That huge psychological damage for many children may mean that preschool is actively harmful.
My opponent claimed that preschools are harmful. I believe my argument suggested that the benefits outweigh the potential disadvantages. I touched upon 3 issues: children, students, and crime. Specifically, I noted that preschool education improves children's development. In addition, I suggested that attending preschool helps students succeed.
So again, as somebody who's worked, thank you. As someone who's worked in AI for basically my entire career, the fact that this is now commonplace, that we can do this kind of thing, is really astonishing. The progress is incredible. So how did Project Debater do? It's very easy to structure everything as a man versus machine battle. Who's going to win? Can the machine beat the best human in the world? And in fairness to Project Debater had to argue for subsidized preschool. Most people before the debate thought that was a good idea. So there wasn't really a lot of room to improve on the sentiment of the audience, whereas Harish was able to put out some arguments that made some people change their mind. To be frank, Project Debater didn't win this debate. But that's really not the point. And actually, I think this is an important meta point, which is we don't really want AI to play games for us. We play games because we enjoy games. We don't really want AI to take away the things that we like to do. We like to do those things. Why would we replace ourselves with AI systems? What Project Debater did do, though, if you look at the stats, we asked which debater better enriched your knowledge. And by an overwhelming margin, the audience chose Project Debater. Project Debater brought facts, brought evidence to the table that Harish did not. And really, this gets to the point of why we're doing this. We want to build AI systems that can make you better, that can make you more effective, that can bring evidence and data to the table, that can unleash your creativity. Again, because creativity fundamentally is that human thing that we're really trying to protect. So I just want to take my last few moments here on stage to paint a vision for what AI can be for us, because there's a lot of talk today about how AI is going to replace us, or take away our jobs, how it's going to make the world a worse place. But that doesn't have to be true. AI can be our co-pilot. AI can augment us. AI can empower us. And AI can make us really be able to focus and embrace those things that fundamentally make us human. Thank you.
Thank you for watching Deep World. Stay tuned for more explorations into ideas, arts, and sciences. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. But before you go, let's take a moment to explore the power of curiosity. Imagine a world where questioning the status quo is not just encouraged, but celebrated. Where every why leads to a new adventure, a new discovery, and a new way of thinking. This is the essence of Deep World. Curiosity is the engine that drives innovation, creativity, and understanding. It's what pushes us to look beyond the surface, to dig deeper, and to seek out the truths that lie beneath. It's the spark that ignites the fire of knowledge and the fuel that keeps it burning. So whether you're pondering the mysteries of the universe, the complexities of the human mind, or the beauty of artistic expression, remember that curiosity is your greatest ally. Keep asking questions, keep seeking answers, and never stop exploring. Join us on this journey of discovery, and let's unlock the endless possibilities that curiosity brings. Stay curious, stay inspired, and stay tuned to Deep World. Until next time, keep diving deep.